5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Buenos dias, hippies. Paz en el barrio. The cookie we're going to talk about today is kind of an artificial one, sort of. It's not my habit to read extensively from other people's texts, from my own, of course, all the time, but I make an exception in this case because old professors like me never die, and we come across something we want to read, we'll read till we go hoarse. What I'm going to read you is an extremely well-edited synopsis of the origins and purposes of what we are at pains today not to call propaganda. Listen, because here you will hear, as in few other places, so respected and authoritative a voice, so frankly and candidly discussing the naked structures and the motivations of our controlling institutions. Are you ready? Feel free to take notes. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of the country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas are suggested largely by men who we've never heard of. This is the logical result of the way our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct, or in our ethical thinking, we are dominated by a relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. The author of that passage, and of the passages from which that account was expertly stitched, Edward Bernays. The best media biography of him that I know of is the BBC program Century of the Self, the first installment of 4 of which is dedicated to Bernays, Freud's favorite nephew and frequent amanuensis. Bernays took Freud's general insights into human behavior and built gauzy edifices of the professions around them, including public relations and advertising. Bernays was what I call a Wilsonian, or capital L liberal, who demonstrated a clearly enlightened understanding, but a far too tolerant acceptance of the nature of the political status quo. He published those insights in about 1928, whereupon they were immediately, and you might recognize it, seized upon by Goebbels and Hitler. And aside, I think capital L liberals, I've always thought anyway, occupied the position in the American framework at the time and exerted approximately the same amount of epistemic authority as Lenin's vanguard intellectuals did in his movement. The eugenicists were capital L liberals, as were a lot of social Darwinists. It was Bernays who coined the phrase the manufacture of consent, which Chomsky and Herman quoted in titling their landmark book in 1988, Manufacturing Consent. Television and its recent flickering blue screen scions, such as the one on which you are very likely regarding these images or hearing these words, are the source phenomena, the inventions, most responsible for the decline and demise of the collective intellect of the U.S. In consequence, it is very, very, very difficult to impress on the average American that they are, in fact, mainly responding to propaganda all the time and in every aspect of their lives, to the extent that they are personally involved in mediated activity. One of the genius moves of the PR propaganda industry was to create entirely artificial distinctions between propaganda and advertising. The most accurate measure of the success of the propagandizing to which all citizens are subject is the readiness of themselves to repeat the differences, say, between Coors and Bud, or Ford and Chevy, Coke and Pepsi, as if those differences were real. Item: there is a real difference between a Ford sedan and an apple tree. There is no meaningful difference between a Chevy and a Honda. Now, think again of that template upon which the entire virtual uniform indoctrination program of the entire mediated culture has been built. It was what I quoted to you above. Now think again about it, and go back, read it again. No, I'll save you the trouble. Here, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism in society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power. Thought control needn't be exercised by restricting individual expression. When one exercises editorial discretion over the vocabulary, literal, visual, and figural, in which the common business is conducted. Bernays was the first person to formalize this insight, and he packaged it in the glistening wrapping of suppressed sexual suggestion, which is still the norm underlying the discourse for most successful campaigns today, including political ones, one way or another. If you divide and conquer, what are you doing when you fragment and atomize, do you think, hippies? See ya almost naked at the beach.